Hey, Everyday Athlete Podcast Network listeners, welcome to a special episode of our Fireside Chat. Today, I'm going to be talking to Jordan Daniel of Rising Hearts, Kristen Carrier of Seven Summit Snacks, and Celia Carmongo of GOO. We have all partnered together to bring to life a coffee gift set that you can give to yourself or to a family member, and it includes all sorts of products from GOO and Seven Summit Snacks, as well as this coffee mug, and we'll also be including native ground coffee in there. 20% of the purchase price is being donated to Rising Hearts, and I am beyond excited to be able to partner with these great people and these great businesses to help raise funds. I met Jordan maybe a year or two ago through Om Gandhi, who is a former partner of ours here at Run Try Bike, and we've stayed in touch. And over that time, I've had the good fortune of being able to talk with Jordan and learn a lot more about Indigenous people, the connection to the land, the culture, and has really impacted me, because to say I was naive about most of this information would be an understatement. And anytime I get to learn from people, I'm going to take advantage of it. And so I'm really super excited to have that connection to Jordan Rising Hearts. And she's going to be the first person I bring on here to join me on this particular special episode of Fireside Chat. Jordan, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for helping me learn about Indigenous culture and the meanings and meeting so many great people. Next, I'm going to bring Celia on. Celia is from GOO Energy, and I realize I pronounced your name with an N. I apologize for that.
No problem.
How are you doing today, Celia?
I am doing wonderful, or as we like to say in GOO world, great.
I love
Gotta
it.
sneak the puns in.
I love it. And now I'll be bringing in Kristen, who is the co-founder of Seven Summit Snacks, who I met about 2 years ago as well through another podcast, and have formed a great relationship with Kristen. And I'm super excited to have her be a part of this discussion, as well as having her products in the gift box. Kristen, how are you?
Doing great today, thank you.
Jordan, I don't want to butcher the vision and mission for Rising Hearts. So would you mind giving our audience a little insight into who you are and what Rising Hearts is all about?
Yes, so Rising Hearts has been around since January of 2017. Our roots were grassroots, and that's how we began in the fight for climate justice and answering the call from Standing Rock to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline. And we were based in DC and really wanted to increase Indigenous visibility and voices of organizers and educators to bring more of an Indigenous perspective into climate justice talks and what that looks like. And then over the years, we grew, we expanded, we were in community, we evolved. And I would say our biggest turning point was in May of 2020. After we saw the murder of George Floyd, we really wanted to pivot and embody the way I was taught and raised, Mitakuye Oyasin, we are all related. And to me, that's like the Indigenous version and concept of like what intersectionality would be from an Indigenous perspective. And I wanted Rising Hearts to embody that. So we changed from being only Indigenous centered and focused to including so many other communities that are underrepresented and experience racism and oppressed communities, and really trying to create a better future through movement, through storytelling, and meaningful action and allyship. And so that's primarily what Rising Hearts is about, is we really utilize running primarily, but we have other athletes and friends that we support in other sports to really engage with community and to bring awareness to the causes that we care about, and really try to kinship build with the running and outdoor industry to do better and to commit to more and to really investing in community-led initiatives.
That's amazing. And I know when I'm hearing those words, like I get excited, because I know that through diversity and community, we can change the world. I know oftentimes people feel disenfranchised, like what can one person do? And the reality is when one person connects to another single person, there's power in that. And so hearing you say those words really gives me inspiration and motivation. And I want to turn this over to you, Celia, right? As a company at Goo Energy, like individuals within the company might have certain thoughts and ideas and concepts of what they'd like to do, but as a business, oftentimes it's like trying to turn the Titanic inside of a bathtub. And so, like, how did it come about that Goo Energy, whether you raised your hand and said, hey, Jordan, we want to partner with you, or Jordan reached out to you and said, hey, can we work together? Somehow, some way it came about. So what's it like to be a company who hears these words from Jordan and says, we're in, sign us up?
Yeah, great points. And I think like the thread of community, like this is the reason that we're all here. And Jordan, you've been such a bridge to bring so many people together. And, you know, with your question, I think it starts with the purpose. And the purpose of our company at Goo is to feed the need to move. So the way that Jordan and I initially connected, which I was just reflecting is about 4 years, almost to the date, is because of the Western States Endurance Run. So Goo's founding story is that our energy gel, if you're familiar, was actually formulated for our founder's daughter, who was training, great, who was training for the Western States 100 in the late 80s. There really weren't many nutrition solutions back then. You know, candy, Coke, bananas, and she was having GI issues. So he created the formulation of the energy gel specifically to help with her training. And from then, we were a longtime sponsor of Western States. Over the years, we had lost the sponsorship to another nutrition brand. And it was in 2021 when we rebid on the partnership and we became official sponsors. So with that, we get an entry to the race. And it's a very coveted entry. And we took a step back and started thinking about Goo was founded because of the Western States 100. How can we bring others in? And that's when we started thinking about our purpose around Goo Gives, our philanthropic arm, which is all about creating access and protecting the places we play. And I was connected with Jordan through our president, Magda Boulay, who's also on the board of Western States. In learning about Jordan's organization, immediately we were like, we must dive all in. Like I said, we talk about protecting the places we play, but we need to take a step back. Like, what are these lands that we are recreating with? And that was just the beginning of this beautiful kinship that we have formed with Rising Hearts.
That's awesome.
4 years. Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
And even when you're not having fun and stressed out to the hilt, it still flies. Kristen, I want to ask you about your thoughts when I reached out to you to say, we're going to be putting together a coffee gift set. By the way, if you're a fan of Run Try Bike, you know we drink all the coffee all the time. This should not be a surprise that we're offering coffee gift boxes. But when I reached out to you to say, I'd like to include the Seven Summit Snacks coffee product, which, by the way, is my favorite. I don't get to eat enough of because my wife eats them all. What was that feeling knowing that it's going to be part of this community of products that we're also going to be donating money to Rising Hearts?
I think for us, it's a no-brainer to support activities like the one that you set up, Jason. Community is one of our values as a brand, and we only exist as a brand and only are growing as a brand because of community and engaging with the community. And I think as well, like just being a part of a community as well. So for us, again, like the organization Rising Hearts and their pillars of purpose and everybody moving and creating access to that, those are the kinds of initiatives that we like to support as a brand. I think when you are a brand owner, you have a platform where you can be a steward to share stories and and highlight people who, again, underrepresented in their whatever their activity might be. And so for us, it's important to continue to support those types of initiatives because we feel the value on a personal level, and we want to make sure that we can be a conduit for those types of conversations. And like Celia said too, like actually giving opportunity to people rather than just talking about things that we could be doing.
I often wonder if people realize how powerful a connection and a community can be when we're all rowing the boat in the same direction. I often think that people are concerned about protecting their territory or their space and don't want to get engaged with people in a collaborative space. But I will say this, the moment I reached out to Jordan, Celia, and Kristen, the answer almost immediately was like, we're in. Like, how do we make this work? How do we do this? Because I'm one of those people who's a big dreamer and has a million ideas. I have notebooks filled with ideas, and some of them come to fruition and some of them don't. And they're all based on collaborative efforts so that we can grow together. And I'm going to tell a quick story about how and why getting involved in the Indigenous community is become so important to me. A couple of years ago, Coach Becky Croft posted on Threads about the Western States Endurance Run and the lands that we are running on. And I say we because I'm a Western States finisher. And I just reached out to her and I said, do you mind talking to me for 5 or 10 minutes about this thread? Because I didn't know anything about this. I don't understand what you mean. And she was gracious with her time and talk to me about it. And that's right around the same time, Jordan, that you introduced me to Yatika's film. And watching Yatika's film, I was blown away by what I feel is a lack of discussion about the topic of running on native lands and acknowledgement of that. And so for the last 2 years, I'm like, how do I consume more and more of this? And that's why, for me, it's so important to be able to do something like this and connect with each of you on this initiative, because I think it's way bigger than me as an individual. And so, Jordan, like, I'm going to turn this over to you and not necessarily put you in the hot seat, but ask you, how can we get more athletes like myself, who literally had zero clue or idea, to gain an idea, like to just give us a sliver of information? How do we do that? How do we get better at doing that?
I mean, I think it all comes down to being curious, just like you were. And I think when we can give into that curiosity and come with questions out of respect, but curiosity leads to that shift in our narrative and perspectives of what we thought we knew or what we didn't know at all. And I think when we're coming to Indigenous voices or anyone who we don't know anything about, who are knowledgeable about it, I think, giving them the agency to have that opportunity to share their perspective and let their voice be heard. And as long as it's all happening with, good vibes and attitude and respect and questions, like, we want to inform and educate community and people, because for so long, Indigenous history and culture and people and voices have, consistently been erased or invisible within these spaces, and we're still finding that, and it's still really hard to exist as an Indigenous runner or as an Indigenous led nonprofit. There are so many other Indigenous led efforts out there, and runners and individuals and initiatives that are doing such incredible, amazing work. And I think that's just like the growth that we're seeing in community right now, is like we're seeing all of this amazingness happen. And I wish there was all the resources and investment possible to invest in every single person and project, because they are so life-saving for so many. And being part of a community or seeing a community that you see yourself in is validation, is safety, is so many things that mean so much to that one individual or to that community. And so I think for anyone who doesn't have any insight as to what is going on with Indigenous peoples or other issues or community groups, come at it with curiosity and don't be afraid to get out of your own comfort zone. Get a little uncomfortable and sit with it and ask yourself those hard questions of, what did I think I knew? And how can I change that? And how can I not only seek the answers and try to educate myself in the best way possible, but what am I going to do with that knowledge after? How am I going to continue to show up as a friend, as an ally, as a co-conspirator, to be in it with this community, or to be in it with this person, to show that I do care. I see you, I validate you, I acknowledge you, and I respect you. How can I show up meaningfully and authentically? And I think that's where a lot of people get nervous, is because they don't want to look performative, or they are feeling that kind of like imposter syndrome, or like questioning themselves, is like, am I being authentic with this? And it's like, first, get out of your own comfort bubble. If you make mistakes, acknowledge it, do better, and we're always going to want to help you if you make a mistake, and we want to be there with you. It's when you divert from that track and just extract that information and don't continue to try and do better, is where we're going to see, okay, you're not really in it for the right reasons then, and we can acknowledge that. But yeah, I think it's just getting out of your own comfort zone, being curious, asking the questions, and being able to give back as an ally and a friend.
I feel like you were talking directly at me, because as we are sharing Native American Heritage Month videos, I had been beyond nervous because it isn't my culture. And I don't want to make a mistake, but I know that if I do make a mistake, that it's not because I was doing it purposefully. It was an error on my part, and it happened with Mariah, and we just posted Jonathan Yellowhair's video, and I spelled his name hair as in rabbit instead of hair as in what we have on our head. And she was like, "Oh, the hair is spelled Hair, not Hare." And she corrected me in a non-aggressive manner, right? She was like, "Look, you just spelled his name wrong," and like that gave me a little bit more liberty. I was like, "Oh, okay, I can make a mistake, and we can correct it." Julie, I want to ask you this question, because I asked you the business side of it from the GOO side, but from the personal side, when you see Yatika's film, or you see Callie's film that you worked with Jordan on, and we're both at the Trail Running Film Festival nominees, when you see that from a personal perspective, and you watch them, like, what's the feeling that comes over you as you're watching these videos? Because they're very personal, right? Callie talks about losing weight and her mother, and Yatika was more about the lands and acknowledging the lands that we are running on. Those are personal. So what was the personal emotion that those two films evoked from you, or when you talk to Jordan, and the personal emotion that comes from it?
I have many emotions that roll over me. And I mean, curiosity, hope, joy, strength, resilience. There's just like so many words that come to mind. And really, as you take it back to No to Run, Yatika's film, there are some words that Yatika said that have stuck in my mind and continue to roll chills down my spine when I think about it, is there's more to come from this, because there is. And Jason, I want to take it back to what you were just, there has been, it's, and this is the power of bringing people together. And Kristen, I'm so grateful to be connected too, because we are all stronger together. When we take the time to be vulnerable, to know that we're going to make mistakes. Jason, I can completely relate to what you have shared. And I want to give a nod to Sergio, who has worked closely with you, Jordan, and Rising Hearts. There's something that he had said on a panel that has also stuck with me, that he said, "Hey, everybody, when you learn to ride a bike, did you get on the bicycle and just whiz away? Absolutely not. You fell off. You had that childlike learning and understanding that I'm just going to keep trying." So tap into that inner child and know it's okay to mess up. So I think about the bike analogy a lot too in this work, because it's deep and it's meaningful and it's needed. And that's those are a few things I wanted to share. I have one more thing that I think about with both of these films. It's saying that Rising Hearts has instilled in me, be a good relative. And
Yes.
really recognizing our interconnectedness with nature. Yes, exactly. And like just looking at that, and also I'm a new mom and thinking about the next generation, and that I have one of the next generation, and like what can I do to learn, unlearn, learn, and teach. So that's what I think about.
It's funny you bring up the words learn and unlearn. I saw a post on Instagram yesterday and it said learn, unlearn, learn. And that's all it said, right? So like we've learned something, we need to unlearn it and then relearn something else. And it was really powerful and impactful. About a year or so ago, we had a fireside chat panel discussion with Becky Croft and then the founders of We Run Long, Rebecca Bowman and Kelsey Long. And something Kelsey said to me that I will forever stick in my mind, and I'm going to present this to you, Kristen, is she said, we need people that are more than allies, we need accomplices. And I mean, that was like a 2x4 to the face, right? And it reminded me of John Lewis saying, let's get into good trouble. And when I think about those two phrases, I'm like, I want to be more than an ally. I want to be an accomplice in this fight, in this struggle. I want to stand up and let, in this particular case, Indigenous athletes, but BIPOC athletes, women athletes, physically challenged athletes know that I've got their back. They're not fighting this alone. And so, like, this is sort of philanthropic, corporate social responsibility, do good type of things on this side. So, Kristen, for you, when it comes to that concept of allyship and accomplice, how do you perceive perfect timing? How do you perceive this idea of allyship versus being an accomplice in participating with us? And then I know you have your own initiatives with 7 Summit Snacks that you guys do as well, and I'd be happy for you to talk about those as well.
Yeah, so sorry. It's gonna like tickle right at the wrong time. No, I think like being an accomplice and an ally is important. And I think, Jason, like what you're talking about and sharing is that you're actually doing something. And that's a first step. Again, like you can sit and think and contemplate and okay, you've given some energy to it. But the fact that you're getting out there and doing it is important, and learning and unlearning and learning again along the way. And yeah, I resonate with what you were saying about trying to like feel like you want to get it right. Excuse me. And so sometimes that kind of stops us. But again, like Celia, I'm a newish mom as well. My son is too. So I'm raising that next generation. And part of what my sister, I have a niece who's 8, like we have taken her on some adventures and we noticed that the world is changing and things that we were being able to experience as children are just not present anymore because of climate change, for instance, and how that's happening. But you have to do something. And so just sitting there and acknowledging it is very little, but getting out there, sharing it, and having allies, having accomplices, asking questions, being curious, knowing that there are organizations that are out there that are willing to share that story and storytell like Jordan is doing with Rising Hearts. And so as a brand owner, yes, we feel corporate responsibility, and quite frankly, in the outdoor industry, it's the price of showing up these days is you do need to have this embedded in your brand. But we as people who run the business and who are building the brand are feeling like maybe you are, Jason and Celia and Jordan. We are curious. I think this generation and generations after us are actually we're feeling it, and we're not only seeing what's happening out there and the injustice that's there, but we're feeling it and we feel connected because we recognize that as you're connected, you can do something together. And yeah, it takes 1 + 1, takes one. Yeah. And I think that's really important. So for us, as people in the brand, but also as a brand itself. We want to make sure that we have a platform that does actually do good things and support good initiatives, and not just tick a box that says that we're doing it. So we track those activities, we share them with our community, and we ask our community what they want to hear from us, and that's what we like to support too.
Yeah, get into it, get involved. Don't just don't put words on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
We're running
Can I
up on
add to that real quick?
Yeah.
I think coming from like the community aspect and like the runner, that's what we really enjoy doing in the work that we do, is building those relationships with brands and companies and other nonprofits, because it's being able to communicate what we're doing. It's being able to share in the joy of, what keeps us going, even when it's super, super hard at times. And being able to really prioritize and emphasize that, like, investment cannot just be financial support. I know a lot of brands and companies sometimes just don't have the capacity to support fully financially, but even if it's other opportunities that are creative with amplification, visibility, a podcast opportunity, newsletters, like that all goes hand in hand in supporting the individual or supporting that nonprofit or community group with pushing their narrative forward and the things that they are wanting to do and to support and to amplify. And as community groups, we can tell who is doing what in the industry and who we know to avoid. We can tell, we can see the authenticity, we can see what's performative and who's actually doing meaningful relationship building with community. And that's why I will always, always, always just celebrate GOO, because at least for us, we have been so lucky that they have just set the standard so high with us, over now 4 years of still working together. And even though we're not a GOO Gives Back recipient right now, and shout out to Running Industry Diversity Coalition, they are now, but like the fact that we are outside of that range and that window of that support, like GOO has still shown up for us even after the fact. And we always try and push for, we don't want a one and done opportunity. We want consistent and sustainable investment in the work that we are doing, the hard work that we are so honored and grateful to be doing every single day. And so as community, we can see that and we appreciate that. And it means so much, even when it's not just financial support. It can be so many other ways of supporting, the really important work that's happening.
I don't think people fully grasp that a small step forward is still a step forward in this situation. Like I would define myself as an impatiently patient person. And like I want to do things right now. Like why aren't you contributing? And why aren't you posting about this? And why aren't you, raising the red flag and screaming like your hair is on fire? Like why aren't you doing that? But simultaneously, I do know that people have to come to their own conclusions in their own time.
Yeah.
And through conversations with other less visible cultures, whether it's a BIPOC athlete or a queer athlete or a physically challenged athlete, or even female athletes in general, one of the things that I have heard from them consistently is that small, slow progress is still progress. And I have had to process that over the last, I would say 90 days, way more than I ever have before. And it has opened up my eyes from a visual perspective that when I see Jordan post something, or I see somebody else within the Rising Hearts community post something, or I'm like, okay, all these little dots are getting connected and all of these people are coming together, even if it's not in one fell swoop. And it's amazing. And so when you talk about RIDC, and I immediately envision Kira Smalls and all her LinkedIn posts and how awesome that is, like that's another step forward in that movement. And we're running up on time here, and I wanna also mention that when I raced Javelina last week, I was overcome with emotion at the start line because I heard song, and I turned to my left, and there were 3 Indigenous women doing a performance, celebrating each other, recognizing the land. And I had no idea what they were saying. I had no idea what they were singing, but their faces told the whole story, which was, I recognize what I'm about to do here. It's hard, but I have the support of my culture, of my people, and this land. And it got me emotional. And I really wish that, and there were almost no people watching the ceremony take place. And I get it, it's the start of a 100-mile race, you're dialed into what you're doing. But I really wish more people would have been able to see the ceremony and the looks on their faces. And then when they were done with the ceremony, the smiles that came out, like, we got this. We're going to do the thing. And I just thought that was super powerful. And so when we talk about like taking one small step forward, like that was a small step for me to just be able to be in the right place at the right time to see it. And that was super, super impactful. And again, we're running up on time. So Celia, I'm going to give you the floor for a minute, 2 minutes, however long you want to take. What do you want people to take away from this type of conversation when it comes to Indigenous people, the lands, the culture? What is it that you want people to walk away from? And Kristen, you'll be able to answer this question too.
Yeah, I believe stay curious and lead with love. This story that you just shared is so powerful because I've also had an opportunity to experience a land blessing, and it really does give you much deeper meaning and purpose with every step that you take moving forward. And you cannot replicate a live experience. And as I bring this back to GOO and our employees, we try to figure out like, how can we create opportunities for learning and growth with each person? So something that we did last year is we directed employees to the nativeland.ca website, which Jordan educated us about, so that we can all learn whose lands we're on. And through that, we went even deeper and found out that we are on Ohlone land here in the Bay Area, and it is not a federally recognized tribe. And then we connected with a nonprofit doing work right outside our doors. We manufacture in our office here in Berkeley on Ohlone land. So now we pay an institutional shumi, which shumi in the Chochenyo language means gift. So we pay a honorary gift to our local tribe in support of land return, and just educating our employees on that. We've done cultural walks. It's just taking time to step back, learn, experience, and then share. I think, yeah, that's what I want to share.
Awesome. Kristen, I'll turn it over to you. And for those of you who don't know, Kristen is in Canada, and it's a different country from the United States, but Indigenous people are, obviously part of the lands there as well. And is the conversation in Canada that you've noticed, is there a conversation being had in Canada about recognizing the Indigenous lands and the people and the cultures?
Absolutely. In the last 3 or 4 years, the lid's been lifted off the pot on this, and enough people were speaking up, saying, hello, we have, like, asking for, I can't think of the words right now, but yes, the conversation is happening. Our governments have put into place days of recognition. A lot of communities are recognizing the lands that they're seated on with their Indigenous names, and a lot in policy, just in general as well, is supposed to be supposed to be actively engaging with the Indigenous stewards of the lands when decisions are being made. Similar to Rising Hearts, we have runners within our community who are speaking up and sharing their experiences. And so I think, like, going back, Jason, to you, like, what are we asking of ourselves and each other? And it's about being curious and open to listening to these people who are speaking and to the people who are sharing the stories, their experiences, the generations of neglect that they've experienced, and sharing that with people who want to learn, be curious, and help to acknowledge the past, but also change the future. And so working with and supporting community groups who, and people as well, individuals who are on a mission to make change, we're here to support that. And we, again, acknowledge and recognize that this is happening. So.
Awesome. I want to thank you all for participating in this conversation. It's an important conversation to have. I hope it's just one of the very first steps that Run, Try, Bike can take in working with each of your organizations, in continuing these conversations about how do we continue to bring in allies and accomplices. For those of you that are listening, if you go to runtrymag.com, hover over the shop button, you'll see a drop down for the coffee gift set. It's got plenty of GOO products in there, including the waffles. It's got the 7 Summit Snacks coffee bar in there. It comes with the mug. I'm just not showing it. It actually comes with the mug. And 4 ounces of native ground coffee, and 20% of the purchase price, which is $60, will be donated to Rising Hearts to help continue to foster and facilitate their vision and mission for their organization. Thank each of you for being here. Thank you all for participating in this gift box that we have put together. It means the world to me. And I look forward to, Jordan, am I going to see you in a couple of weeks in Scottsdale?
Yes.
Awesome.
Next.
So we'll be at the Every Woman's Marathon in Scottsdale in a couple of weeks as well. And we'll be able to take pictures and connect even deeper. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Nice to connect.